Set phases to jazz, we're back with Star Trek Lower Decks as Season 2 kicks off with the first episode. Let's dive in and review what the next entry into the Star Trek franchise offers us. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack, and let's get right into it. This first episode of the second season of Lower Decks is titled Strange Energies, and it's written by Mike McCann and directed by Jason Zurek. Our second season takes place around 3 months after the Season 1 final, with the USS Cerritos being dispatched on another second contact mission. Let's break down the episode and give our thoughts on it. Remember to share your opinions in the comment section below as usual, because if you're talking Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. Of course, if you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. Okay, let's hit it. So, the first episode starts in high fashion with us seeing a space station in an asteroid field, guarded by some Cardassian Gallagher-class ships. These ships were seen throughout Star Trek The Next Generation and of course Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Now Mariner is being interrogated like Captain Picard in Chains of Command, as a Cardassian woman enters the room and starts to interrogate her, though Mariner managed to escape with ease, and we find out this is actually a holodeck program upon seeing a chained up Brad Boimler who has been shown too many lights, another nod to the 4-light situation Picard was in Chain of Command. Mariner using holodecks not only to train but also deal with her feelings and emotions, especially towards the fact Boimler abandoned her, very much carries on from the Season 1 episode Crisis Point, where Mariner found out that therapy works, especially when used on the holodeck. Mariner escapes imprisonment aboard a Miranda-class starship, whose bridge is exactly similar to the bridge of the USS Reliant from the Wrath of Khan. This is interesting as the ship has been upgraded from the outside, with Next Generation star nacelles, but the bridge is still in its classic form. Though this is a holodeck, so it doesn't mean entirely much. Other ships in the shuttle bay are Starfleet runabouts, Jem'Hadar attack ships, a Bajoran fighter, a Maquis ship, and many others. See if you can spot them all. It's a cool little detail that all these ships are mainly from Deep Space Nine, which makes sense as the show focuses on most of the Cardassians, and these ships are most likely to be found in the Cardassian Detention Center. As Mariner escapes in the USS Macduff, she is pursued by some very modern looking Hidiki-class starships. This could actually be what the new Hidiki-class starships of the Cardassian Union have made after the Dominion War. The program is paused and we meet with a fan favourite character of the show, Jennifer. Jennifer was previously seen in mainly one scene in Season 1, where Mariner pushed her out of the way. Obviously the relationship between Mariner and Jennifer is strained, maybe because she pushed her out of the way in a corridor, maybe. Mariner even mentions that they are meant to have interpersonal conflicts, something which is wanted by Gene Roddenberry for Star Trek. Though, as we've seen, you can have these interpersonal conflicts and still strive to be a better, and it doesn't take away from the inspiration that is Star Trek. The only noticeable change to the title sequence for this second season is that the Romulan vs Borg scene is now the Romulans versus the Klingons versus the Pakled versus the Borg, that was a mouthful, and way more in the foreground than that of the first season's title sequence. We know that the Pakleds will be a major villain of this arc, as well as we have seen some Borg stuff in the trailer, so maybe this shows that these villains are coming to the forefront of this season. We're gonna have to wait and see. What's interesting is that Fred Tatasciore, the voice of Lieutenant Shack, is still listed in the opening credits. Perhaps our lovable Bajoran is in fact returning. Ensign Rutherford seems to be back to normal since his implant was ripped out by Shax at the end of last year, and he's gotten a new implant. However, nothing is back to normal, as he's going on a date with Ensign Barnes, again, who he went on a date with in the first episode of Season 1. He's also taking to liking pears, which apparently he didn't like previously. Now, the Ensign Tendi is working on his new implant, and she's worried it's changing Rutherford, and goes on a mission to save her friend, sort of a secondary storyline of this season. An away team goes down to the second contact planet, who just have to decide their subspace phone number, an arduous task apparently, and Mariner decides to use a sonic pressure washer to help clean the buildings of the planet, who haven't been cleaned since the Industrial Revolution. I just have to say, I am so glad a sonic pressure washer exists, and it makes sense considering the sonic showers on Starfleet ships. I like it. Now Mariner cleans some sort of orb which activates and zaps Commander Ransom, with something called Strange Energy. We find out this same phenomenon was responsible for Gary Mitchell in the original series episode Where No Man Has Gone Before. We even see a picture of a godlike Gary Mitchell in the animated series art style, similar to how we saw Kirk and Spock in their animated art styles last season. But damn, who would have thought we'd get an episode connecting all the way back to the original series pilot episodes? It's fantastic. Now Ransom has now become a new Gary Mitchell, a godlike being who likes to work out and is angry at the captain for various reasons. But instead of a normal zaps of Gary Mitchell, Ransom fires rainbow beams out and transforms people into looking like him, and creates exercise equipment. Sums up Ransom well, loves himself and loves working out. All around, great guy. Back on the ship, away from the god creating Mount Ransom and disappearing moons, we have Tendi and Rutherford, with Tendi deciding to shock Rutherford to bring his brain back to normal. This doesn't work and merely angers Rutherford, who goes on his date with Ensign Barnes anyway. Now, last season of Barnes, Rutherford apologised of his new implant, which Barnes related to since her father was a cyborg. This time Rutherford apologised for his lack of memories and he doesn't know who he is, to which Barnes relates since her sister recently became a joined Trill, and also doesn't really know who she is either. The use of Barnes to reintroduce Rutherford in this second season, compared to the first season, is very clever, and I appreciate it. Good writing. We also get another reference to Cetaean Ops, with Barnes going swimming with a couple of girls from there. Does this mean other humanoid officers who work in Cetaean Ops or female dolphins? Either way, Mike Mahan promises more Cetaean Ops this season, and here is the man of his word. I like it. Ensign Tendi takes matters more into her own hands, and hunts down Rutherford with a dart gun, because of course she does. We find out the reason why Tendi is doing this is because she's worried that Rutherford can change his opinion on liking pairs, and therefore Ensign Barnes. He may change his mind on having Tendi as a friend, but a mere example of Tendi using wacky science to try and fix their friendship is enough of a reason to show Tendi that Rutherford will not change his mind on their friendship, and he loves using wacky science to solve normal issues. So, with the B plot solved, how will the A plot be solved by the Gary Mitchell ransom? Well, by applying some concentrated force in his neutral zone. And yes, this simply means that Kirk had to simply kick Gary Mitchell in the balls, he wouldn't have been forced to squash him a boulder and kill his friend. The more you know. But if that didn't work, Dr. Tanana was ready with a boulder just in case on a hover forklift. I love this woman. As expected, a mother-daughter team of Freeman and Mariner would not work with how these characters are. Freeman wants everything to be done by the rules, like a typical Starfleet captain, and Mariner wants to break rules in order to do good. Mariner sent back to brig in one of the most hilarious escorts of a brig, and it's nice that in the brig, there is a little inscription that says Mariner HQ on the side, and I think Rutherford is way too harsh on pairs. As the great Admiral Vance would say, 32nd century pairs don't taste that bad for shit. So, how might Brad Boimler be doing on the Titan, you may wonder? Well, that's how this episode ends, with Boimler screaming on the bridge as a squadron of pack-led battle harpies are driving the Titan towards a singularity. As the Titan is being forced for a singularity, they do something called colonic disruption, which essentially means that the stuff which holds particles together is being disrupted. So as we see, they're being stretched, and Riker just screams, "I love this job." Classic Riker moment, I think you'd agree. Okay, let's talk about our final thoughts on this episode before we end this video. What a way to start the first episode of this season. Not only did we get a great episode that linked back to previous treks with Ransom becoming Lower Decks Gary Mitchell, but also having the episode link massively back to the events that happened in Season 1 of Lower Decks. That was great. It was a very clever decision to have Rutherford revisit his relationship with Ensign Barnes, similar to his experience in Season 1, but different. Tendi does go a bit far in how she approached things, as we've seen in Season 1, and I don't think she went further than normal to try and deal with her anxiety over possibly losing Rutherford as a friend. But then again, people do those things when it comes to anxiety. The Cardassian segment of this episode may have just been in the holodeck, but it was great to see. Personally, I hope that Cardassians post the Dominion War aren't back to their military ways, and I suppose doing this in the holodeck means that if the future does show anything Cardassian related, they're free to do what they want with it. We know that Star Trek Discovery, they do eventually join the Federation, so it would be nice to see how the Cardassian culture has changed since they lost the Dominion War, and had their planet nearly wiped out. And continuing on with the nice connections to the previous season, Mariner is using a holo program to deal with the issues she has, such as being abandoned by Boimler. This obviously follows on from the exquisite Season 1 episode, Crisis Point, where Mariner finds out that therapy works, and the holodeck is a good way to deal with internal issues. Who knew? If only we had one, I mean, come on. Overall, I think this was a great episode to reintroduce us to the world of Star Trek Lower Decks. It seems like we'll be getting some more of the USS Titan missions as we deal with a growing pack-led threat out in the galaxy. I'm very curious to how they'll deal with Boimler eventually returning to the Cerritos. I hope it's handled well and not because Boimler messed up something and got demoted. I would like to devalue his character in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, another great aspect is of course Jonathan Frakes' cameo as Captain Riker, with another one of his great random-ass Star Trek lines. Honestly, I love this man. That's it for our review of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 1. What did you think of the first episode of Season 2, Strange Energies? Let us know in the comment section as below as per usual, because if you're talking Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. And now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. We'll be back for episode 2 very soon.